What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Racially Speaking, where we have real and honest conversations about race as it's viewed through the lenses of faith, family, and vocation. As always, I'm your host, David Phipps, and you're listening to episode 17. This is also a super special kind of bonus episode we're doing here on the pod. I'm joined live by not one, but two guests. That's right, two guests at the same time. They're both returning guests. And yeah, two of my really good friends. And they actually both just met like 30 minutes ago. So this is really cool that just happened. I'm joined by John Mark Walker, former guest. Yeah. And he's zooming in from Richmond. And I'm actually in our new recording studio. Just kidding. But I'm down the road from my house in Blacksburg and joined by my friend Debbie Carley. So Debbie, welcome back.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's been too long. It's been, I think we're counting back 6 or 7 episodes, so way too long.
Wow, you're getting well established in your podcast.
Oh, no.
Yes, he is.
But yeah, as I mentioned, this is kind of a special bonus episode. I reached out to both of these lovely people to do this, I think maybe just a couple weeks ago. We're here to discuss Marvel's newest movie, and wow, I can't wait to get into this. I've been waiting for this for a while. Shang Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings. We waited a couple weeks, may or may not be because of scheduling, but I gave everyone time, I think ample time, to see the movie. Debbie, you've seen it twice, right?
Yeah.
Debbie, you've seen it twice. And, oh man, just fantastic movie. Obviously right on theme for the types of conversations we have here on the podcast. So I'm pumped to get into this. If you have not seen it and you plan to see it and care about spoilers, cut it off now. This is your warning. This will be, full of every spoiler possible because we're going to dive in and unpack this thing. So there you go. I warned them, right, guys? That's a fair warning.
Yep, that's fair warning.
Spoilers, so
yeah.
Luckily, it's a podcast. Can record it, so come back and listen. But I'm excited to get into this. And before we do, I'll just, because I know maybe we might have some first-time listeners, especially if you just saw the Marvel theme and you wanted to jump in and listen here. I have to confess first, I'm not claiming to be a know-it-all Marvel nerd, if you will, or anything like that. Not because I don't want to be or aspire to be or wish I was. I'm just not, and there's no shade or hate. I've just fallen so far behind on the movies, and I've got no reason other than it's a thing, it happened, and I'm currently playing catch up, but I could not adequately catch up before Shang Chi came out. So here we are, but I made sure that I didn't really have to catch up because it kind of stands alone. No, yep. I think you guys would agree.
Yep.
Debbie, you're kind of in my boat. You like the Marvel movies, but maybe are far behind like I am. However, you've seen this movie twice, so we'll get into that. But John Mark, you are not. You're not like us, man. You're in deep. I think when I reached out, and I was like, man, you're into the Marvel movies, I'm pretty sure, right? And you, I think, panned your phone over, and you're like, yeah, here's my giant shelf of toys. And I think Legos. You said Legos. Okay, Legos. I'm sorry, Lego.
Yeah.
It's Lego, I've come to realize, right? No S?
Well, that's what they say on the Lego Master TV show, but I've always called them Legos, and nobody corrected me until that show was a thing. So I'm going to keep calling them Legos.
Okay, great. I just watched
until I get arrested.
I just finished season 2 with my kids and wife. Yeah. Lego Masters.
Good season. Yeah. Another spoiler, the brothers one.
Yeah. yeah. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
so
but
go ahead.
I am a Marvel fan. I wouldn't say any kind of super fan. My dad collected comic books, and so he had 6 comic book boxes, like long, 3 feet long comic book size boxes, just full.
Wow.
So I think each of me and my 4 siblings, we each took turns reading through all of the Marvel comics. So I'm a fan. And then my dad always bought us action figures. So after the comic books, we would play with action figures, me and my brother. And then when Marvel came out with Legos, that was like game over for me because I loved Lego. I grew up with Lego, and so I just started collecting all the minifigures. And it's just like every Christmas and birthday, I ask my family and my in-laws, and they always buy me Legos. So
That is
I
awesome.
doubt my in-laws ever thought that they would have a son-in-law that would be buying Legos for at 34 years old. So
That's amazing. Man, no shame. It's probably best for our budget that I'm not more into them, because Caitlin's currently, if anyone knows my wife, is biggest Harry Potter fan on the planet, and she's currently in the same stage as you, has recently gotten into the Harry Potter Legos,
the Legos,
and
nice.
our house is slowly filling up.
Those are excellent. Yeah, I have some of those too.
Yeah, shout out to one of our new friends we just saw at a cookout recently. Is trying to convince her to buy the, I think, $400 or $500 castle from Harry Potter.
Yeah, so, I'm not going to say she shouldn't do it. I mean, that sounds like a good life decision to me.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Oh man, all right, we could do this for forever for sure. So let's jump in here. So we're here to discuss the movie. Everyone, I think, listening at this point knows what it is. So it's Marvel's latest movie. Is this number, I think, 25? They said. Did I get that right? 25th film. Great, yeah, you don't even know, John Mark. That's great.
I don't even know.
Something like that. First Marvel film with a male Asian lead superhero. That in and of itself was an amazing thing to see personally. So for both of you, I'll cast the net wide for kind of this first question. I mean, Debbie, you've seen it twice now. Overall review of the movie, like kind of hot take, because we're going to dive in, but just overall, normal person ask you on the street, what'd you think of the movie? Go. Debbie.
Well, I loved it for many reasons, because of the Asian cast, but also the cinematography, the the way the martial scenes were choreographed, the deep life lessons learned that I think are relatable to non-Asians as well, to anybody. Yeah. So, yeah, very well done.
Yeah, absolutely. John Mark, how about you?
Yeah, I loved it too. I agree with everything she said. I thought the action was fun. The fight scenes, the fighting outside of the tower was incredible. The fight between the mom and the dad, that was pretty neat too. So the action was great. I loved it. I love the scenery of the movie. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a tight story. And I'm impressed with Marvel. They keep putting out they're really good at storytelling and character development, and I felt this was one of the best. So, solid movie.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, right from the get-go, the beginning scene with the mom and dad, how they met, it was just a beautiful scene. And I think both of you touched on that. Just something like I've never seen, especially in an action movie, right? The martial arts is just something so much, I think, in America we're not used to. We're used to, either it's not an action movie or there's just like gore and fighting, and it's just hard, maybe not harder to watch, but you usually wouldn't characterize an action scene with beauty, and I just never seen anything like that, especially a Marvel movie like that. And I don't understand every cultural element to the film or even that scene, but what I picked up on is just the words like art. We say martial arts and we kind of say it off the cuff a lot. It just looked really artistic, right? They weren't just and I thought, and we're going to get into this a little bit too, I thought they did an excellent job of making it exactly that, like bold but artistic as well. And I don't think we know how to do that in most action films in our country. So that was just like really cool. Like it wasn't a kung fu or ninja movie, because that's what Asian people do, and that's stereotype. And it was just like, wow, that's like a powerful, beautiful image. Just there's so much, I think, to unpack in just like however long that was, like a 2-minute scene.
Yeah. And I hope that we can get into more of the character of the parents, the mother and the father. But I think in their fight scene, he was all power and attack, and she was defense and that reflection and direction. And I just loved the balance between their fighting styles. I thought that was beautiful too. They complemented each other. So I'm sure we'll unpack that a little more when we get into themes.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, well, this would be like the last really broader one, but like as people of color, what did this film mean to you watching? So, I'll ask both of you and I'll share some too. Yeah, Debbie, you've seen it twice. I know you loved it. What did it mean to you seeing this film?
Well, I didn't mean to go see it twice, but I had some graduate students that kind of pulled me in. It's like, please see it again. So, but
Nice.
I would
go see it a third time So sorry, what was the question again?
Yeah, just what did it mean to you seeing it as a woman of color, as an Asian woman?
I guess there are two aspects. Being Asian, it was just nice to see a superhero that was that I had more in common, heritage-wise, ethnicity-wise. Just to see that persona as a superhero made me feel hopeful that young people could actually experience something that I never experienced as a kid. Because I think this is the first time there's an Asian Marvel's superhero. And unexpectedly, I thought that they dealt with a lot of women role issues. And so the patriarchy phenomena, even in the Asian structure, is so prevalent.
Yes.
And I can see that in my own family. Yeah. At least from my mother's relationship with her dad. And earlier.
So you could relate more. I'm Korean, but you could relate more culturally, much more than I could. So I'm put you on the spot, but so could you unpack that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I'm Chinese by descent.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of Japanese blood, but mainly Chinese. So that whole dynamic where the sister, remember her name?
I forget too.
Xialing.
Yes.
Xialing, where she longs to be a part of the family martial arts business, or she's not allowed to learn. She can only watch on the side. And but at the end, she's determined to build her own empire, teach herself. My mom always wanted to do business, but my grandfather always felt that it had to be male owned. He ran a business. He was a businessman in Asia. And he only wanted to hand down his business to the one grandson he had, my brother. But my brother had no interest. And so he just totally bypassed my mom.
Wow.
But my mom actually eventually started her own jewelry business, only for a few years, but I felt like it's something she wanted to do. If my grandfather had been more supportive, she probably would have majored in business instead of music.
Wow.
It was interesting.
Yeah, that was great. I love what they did with the female characters. I think the end showed us that they're going to go farther, especially with the sister. But I just kept wanting to know more. And I think that power struggle, you mentioned the patriarchy and stuff. It's very multifaceted within Chinese culture, Asian culture, but also American culture too, right? It's not as if that's
It's true.
Asian problem. That's very much true, where we're at too, right? Thanks for sharing that, Debbie. That, man, so helpful. John Mark, so same question, but I think you have a really cool perspective because we've already had, we've had Black Panther, and you're not Asian, but as a black man, how do you, because this is the, second film with a lead person of color, right? It's only the second one, I
Yep.
think, out of all of them. That's crazy. It's still crazy. Anyway,
Yeah, it is crazy.
what?
Yeah.
How did you feel seeing it? Because it's all interconnected, right?
I mean, I loved it. Yeah, I love seeing stories told that are based on cultural backgrounds or ethnic backgrounds that are different from my own. So I grew up Black in America, African American, but also in majority culture settings. So those two cultures I like connect with the most. And so I love seeing how other people view the world culturally. And so seeing this, this movie was great. It was a great experience to see the world in a different way. Similarly with Black Panther, Black Panther was just refreshing to see as a Black man.
Yeah.
My whole family went out together, and so it was a blast. But this one I went to go see with my wife, and we loved it. I love stories. I recently have been listening to fairy tales, fables from different cultural backgrounds, just collecting them from, getting them from the internet, from the library in audiobook form, just so I can learn what different cultures value based on the stories that we tell our children. So I love seeing stories of different cultures. So yeah, I loved it. And Debbie, thanks for sharing about your mom and the connections you feel there. Literally, I think it just landed on me today. I was processing through it. What's her name? Xialing. Her character being Xialing, her character being overlooked the whole time. I was like, why doesn't she get 5 of the rings? Like what's going on with her?
Yeah.
And it didn't sit with me right the whole time, because even her brother still overlooked her till the very end of the movie. And I didn't connect that as a cultural thing until today. So I appreciate you bringing that up and sharing that with us.
Yeah, sure. And I'm looking forward to what happens, because the second time I actually stayed to the end and got to see the last scene, the hint.
Yeah, the final scene. Yeah, that final scene. Yeah, I really hope that they do something with her character. I mean,
got to.
I hope she gets a movie. Like, yeah.
And is she, oh man, I guess we'll get there. Is she going to be a villain? I couldn't tell.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, we'll probably keep talking, but I wonder if they'll do like a character development where she's like trying to figure out if she's good or bad, villain or hero. So, that
would be super interesting.
That's what I like about the Marvel characters. At least recently, they're more complicated. It's not just strictly good, strictly bad.
Yeah. I feel like Captain America, as a Marvel fan, I feel like Captain America was the least complicated. Like always tried to do what was morally good, but I feel like everybody else was more human. That they were flawed and had flawed motives, and So I'm looking forward to what they'll do with Xialing.
All right, let's go, as promised, a little bit deeper here. So, were there any powerful lines that you guys remembered?
I'm not good at remembering lines.
Well, so I'm not either.
Debbie's got some printouts. I love it.
The internet is helpful. Go ahead.
Or that you looked up. It could be either one. We all saw it. So, Debbie, go.
Okay,
go ahead, Debbie.
I like this line from Ying Nan, the ant. She says, you are a product of all who came before you.
Yeah.
The light and the dark, the legacy of your family. You are your other mother, and whether you like it or not, you're also your father. Stop hiding who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, you can interpret it many different ways.
How do you interpret it?
Well, I think she's telling Shang Chi that he's a mixture of both mom and dad. He's inherited maybe some of their disposition or their talents. We see that the mother seems to be very pure-hearted and good. The father, has this need for power and greed. He had all this talent and skill, extremely talented, and had the opportunity to use it for good, but instead he used it for his own power and empire. So I thought that the ant was trying to get Shang-Chi to process what he's going to do with these things he's inherited.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that quote.
Yeah.
His aunt, again, I can't remember the names either, but she was so
Which
good.
one? The aunt.
Yeah, the aunt who you
Yin
just
Nan.
read.
I
Yes,
couldn't remember
Yin Nan.
either. So
Okay.
Chi
Yeah.
That's great. I have them in front of me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good. Yeah, I think the one I remembered was, it might have been part of that quote. Shang-Chi it was when he was asking her to teach him to fight like his mother. So it was probably right after or before that quote. And she said something like, your mother always knew who she was.
Yes.
Do you? Love that quote. It was powerful for the movie, but I personally identify with that kind of sentiment a lot because I think Asian American people struggle with that very thing. Not that everyone doesn't struggle with identity in some way, so I'm not saying that, but specifically what I think that communicated, at least how I take that is, and knowing Shang-Chi's story, even when he's going by Sean in the film, I relate with his story a little bit. I was born in South Korea, but I was adopted and raised in majority culture in America. Just that has been beautiful and amazing, but also has been a lot of my struggle with identity specifically. And I think I would answer that question by saying no in a lot of ways, especially early on in my life of like, well, no, I don't, because all this it's just a headway, right? Not knowing, I spent a lot of my life not feeling Asian enough, not feeling American enough, benefiting and suffering from white adjacency, and just experience all these different things that only I can, or people that look at me can experience for better and often for worse. And so that was just a really powerful quote, I thought, when she was like, do you know or your mother always knew who she was. And that was amazing, because then taking it back to what we already mentioned before, the opening scene, it's like, that's where all that's coming from. That's why it's so beautiful and why she's so powerful without being like a dictator powerful. She's just like, she is confident in who she is. And it's not that she's the strongest, it's that she's just, this is who I am. And she's the matriarch, which we, and we didn't get to see her quite as much, which was the only downside. But I love that quote, and it was a short quote, but I think it was demonstrated a lot of the sentiment of the entire film. Personally. But John Mark, do you have any, even if you don't have the exact quotes or maybe pulled them up, what stood out to you?
Yeah, I think I pulled up these two, and I think they go similar with what you're talking about Shang-Chi figuring out who he was. Let's see. So Katie, his friend, said this to him right after the bus scene. She said, "I know you don't like to talk about your life, but a guy with a freaking machete for an arm just chopped our bus in half." Right. So that part, I know you don't like to talk about your life, stuck out to me, right? Because at that point, we didn't know. At that point in the movie, we didn't know why was he there? Why was he seemingly in hiding?
Right.
But he also said, all I ever wanted was a normal life. So then we got to see his backstory. And he was running from his past. And I like those two quotes because I think about grief, right? So they're a grieving family. His mother died. Yeah. She was murdered, and he saw it, and he couldn't do anything to stop it. And his father wasn't there, who could have stopped it in a second, but wasn't there. And so all three of them, him, his sister, and his father, were grieving. And the way that he responded was to run away at the first chance he got, right? To flee that environment. And none of them processed through their grief healthily, right? So the daughter, so it just grew in this dark void where they weren't processing through their grief. And so that's kind of, we still see them in that, but as adults, and see what they've done with their grief. He chose to hide who he was and tried to figure out, he still didn't even know who he was. But he hid in another country. So, that all I ever wanted was a normal life. Like, I see how his character developed, and that would be the drive and desire of his life.
Yeah. I mean, that bus scene was incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
But,
I've seen that so many times, the trailers.
That's the one part we played for our kids. Because we told them we went to see the movie, and still too young, obviously, but we pulled that up on YouTube, and man,
that's awesome.
Awesome. I say I wanted to show it to my 5-year-old, but I really just wanted to watch it again myself, because oh my gosh, so cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on that, you know, I won't lie. I'll be real. It was empowering a little bit to see him just kick the crap out of those guys. And I took it as more like modern day, like right now, like, I don't know, all the hearing the things I grew up with and bullying, strictly, you know, because of my race and ethnicity, and
Yeah.
2020 going through a year where with the rhetoric with kung flu, that kind of stuff, I'm just like, man,
Yeah.
that, like, how about that, man? Like,
I bet.
just a feeling of like, don't poke the bear type. It just
Yeah.
felt so cool to see him just like,
Yep. I bet.
all right, I got no option. Here we go. But I did subtly pick up on when, and they slid it in there a little bit, where he had mentioned being mocked by Americans, calling him, oh shoot, what's that song? Gangnam Style, and him saying, I'm not Korean.
Korean.
And
Yeah.
I identify with that sentiment very much, just looking at all Asian people as the same, or for some reason calling them Chinese as an insult. And he had kind of dealt with that. And then that was before this scene even happened. So I don't know. I just thought that was cool. I was like, oh man, this is so cool. Not only is it visually cool, but as far as the narrative goes, I was just like, oh man, that's so representative of Asian American people. Yes, Debbie.
I had similar emotions watching. I think that's why I wanted to see the trailer over and over. And I think that song that says that a picture paints 1,000 words. Words. I mean,
I like worlds though, but yeah,
I like worlds too. That was good. Yeah.
But I think that there's something therapeutic for Asians to see this on the big screen, and it just says so much. You see it for a few minutes, or you can talk and talk and talk and try to process it.
Yeah. And it feels like it's like we get superpowers too, right? Yeah. So when Black Panther came out, that was the first time. Well, I guess there was Tony Stark's sidekick, but that was the first time, he is the main guy. He gets superpowers. Yes. Black people get superpowers too. And then all the black women also having without having his superpowers could still fight. And this feels like similarly, it's like for Asian Americans, we get superpowers too. Like it's an awesome feeling to see and experience. Yeah.
Black Panther 2 is coming out too, right? Isn't there a second one?
I know nothing about it, but I'm excited for when it comes out. So, yeah.
Because they're talking about making his sister Black Panther potentially.
Yeah.
Which
they were talking about that.
Which would be very cool.
That would be awesome. Cool. Yep, I'm here for it.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going with some of the characters. So we mentioned the parents. Obviously, find out early that his mother passes, but other than Shang Chi, the crux of the film was the father. And again, I forget his name, but I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I thought he was actually a little bit conflicting. He was a villain, I think, throughout the whole film. Obviously, there were some points where I think you were supposed to empathize with him somewhat or feel sorry for him, but I thought he was a little bit conflicting, and I don't know what you guys will think, especially John Mark on this one, but with it reminded me a little bit of, not exactly by any means, but of the what Killmonger represented in Black Panther a little bit. Like, obviously was a villain, but I don't know, there was a lot to unpack as well of what he represented. And so I'm wondering, what did you guys think about his father? Did you guys think all like bad dude, or was there any elements of him that were like, man, that's hard to wrestle with? Because I found myself, I think more so than other people I've talked to, felt that way.
John Mark first.
Yeah, I'll share. So Killmonger, I love Killmonger. After Black Panther came out, I made a Killmonger mask out of duct tape for Halloween. So I mean, to say I'm a fan of Killmonger is weird though, because he's a complicated character and a murderer and he was after power and revenge. But I think when we really consider our emotions, when we've been hurt and wronged by the world, those are some of the things that come up. Like the Bible talks about God being the one who is for revenge. The God is the one who avenges people. But it's hard to wait and trust that, that God will do that. And so, and if you don't have that hope, like me as a Christian, my hope is in Christ. So I trust that Christ has it under control and God is the one who will revenge. But so I don't have to do it. But if you don't have that, then we're left to our own devices. Killmonger makes some sense that he wants to take over the world. And similarly, I can't remember the beginning of the movie why his father was so driven to take over the world and power. But if you have this mindset of you either win or you lose, right? There's two options. Then you're going to want to be the one who dominates and takes over. So I see the humanity in him. I see him as a complicated character too. Obviously, he was capable of love because there were years where they were a happy family of four. And I feel like his wife balanced him out. His thirst for power, his wife balanced him out because he had conquered everything, and that's what brought him to her doorstep. And so she was the balance for him. And when she was gone, he went back to power. So
I had similar thoughts. I think that he probably, up until before meeting his wife and Shang Chi's mom, he was really on hot pursuit for power and conquering everything. And then he's changed by love. This woman loves him. And I think it's a beautiful story that it's only love that can change him. So he puts down for several years, when they're a family together, this drive for his self-glory and need to possess everything. But then he loses his wife, and the old him comes back in full force.
I agree.
But at the end, spoiler, whatever.
Fair warning. We told them, we said spoilers,
Yeah, we spoiled everything.
And I agree with what you guys are saying with like to John Mark's point with Killmonger, I just saw parallels because it's like, both were murderers. And so it's like, why are we saying these guys are conflicting? And I think he did a great job explaining like Killmonger, and I think about him representing even a lot of 2020, 2021 stuff like rioting when George Floyd happened, stuff like that of, when many people's reactions are, condemning that. Well, burn it down, but then condemning that. And it's like, sure, you don't have to be pro rioting or not, but are you willing to understand where hurting, outraged, oppressed people are coming from? And I couldn't help but think of that exact parallel. And I even think about if anyone listens to Pass the Mic. If you don't, you should listen to that. But Pass the Mic with Jamar Tisby and Tyler Burns. But they did a few episodes on Black Panther Night, and throughout kept saying hashtag Killmonger has a point or something like that.
Yeah, yep.
And I kept being like, yeah. And, he has a point, isn't saying, he's the hero. It's just, well, not so fast. He's not just the villain. And anyway, Shang-Chi, the father, obviously, his wife is murdered. So, sure, he's a murderer, and you show him, essentially, especially in American standards, would be abusive towards his kids. And not a good father, and I wasn't exactly sure what it was supposed to represent culturally, other than maybe the drive to success and power. Not that that's unique to Asian culture, but I took it as he is aware, even if he's not explicitly saying it, of his flaws. Like, I think he wants to love his kids, but it's twisted. And nowhere are we sitting here condoning the things he ends up doing. He's for sure the villain. I think more objectively the villain than even Killmonger was probably, but I think it's worth unpacking a little bit of, okay, what was there and what was his relationship with his kids.
But do you think he was motivated by trying to protect them? Making Shang-Chi able to kill anyone. And because there's that one point where he says, I told his men that you wouldn't be able to kill him.
Right.
And I'm glad I was right. Right?
Yeah, there was some pride. There was some pride there.
Yeah.
Even if it was, again, twisted. But
it's twisted, but...
Yeah.
And what else that motivated? I mean, he wanted the family to get back together, and that's the whole reason he was duped by the mega soul sucker, whatever he's doing.
Yeah, it's true.
And family is hugely important, and culturally and in the film. So I think that's a perfect example. I think he was very bent towards reuniting his family.
Yeah.
Not in the greatest way, I think we'd agree, but I just had empathy for him. I don't know what to say. I think I couldn't get all there with like, this dude is bad. Even my 5-year-old asked me to summarize some of the movies, like, who's the dad? And the dad's bad. And I didn't unequivocally say, he's bad. I'm like, yeah. And then I realized he was 5, and I was like, he's the bad guy. But I was like, I don't.
Yeah, he was a broken man. He was grieving the loss of his wife, and he was afraid of what took her away, taking his children away. Because he even said to his son, when he got him back, he was like, I thought you would have your fun. Like, I kept track of you. I thought you'd have your fun. I'd bring you back. Yeah. So he knew where he was the whole time. Like, Shang-Chi thought he was alone, but he never was away from his father's control and protection because of that. So, it's nuanced. And, I think, he's a nuanced villain. And what is that saying? Hurt people, right? Yeah. So he was grieving.
Perfect example.
And he knew the way, he knew his way, and then he knew his wife's way, which was, when he fought her, she deflected all of his attacks. And like you were saying, she transformed him by her love. And that shows the power of love to transform. And when she was gone, he went back to his old way, right? He went back to his old powerful way. And he was like, he lost her because he put down his sword, for lack of a better word, his fighting, and went away in a peaceful way. And he wasn't there to fight when the fight that he started came back to him. So I just think he was never going to put down that fight again because he wanted to protect his family. Yeah.
So there are some echoes of our Christian faith because it's love, Christ's love, that heals our brokenness, that allows us to be free, not to hurt other people, to perpetuate the mess. I'm thinking that relationship with his wife's love, if that could have continued on, and he gets Shang-Chi's love at the end, right?
Yeah.
Because Shang-Chi proved that he was able to assassinate his father, kill him. But in the end, he doesn't.
Right.
And there's a change at the end.
Yeah.
Right?
In his father's heart. There's a change. Yeah.
His father saves Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a great point, Debbie. The element of love is really kind of the driving force in all of their personal stories and relationships, with each other, just all different really types of love, and at different points it kind of comes together in different ways, for sure. I thought even the first meeting with Shang-Chi and his aunt was just really powerful, how motherly she still was to him when he grew up essentially without his mother, or witnessed her murdered, and then just what a motherly voice she was, not just to him, but culturally. and how powerful she was. I think love was kind of transformative for each of these characters at different times. Debbie, did you? So I read a few things coming into the movie, and the producers and writers and stuff went out of their way to kind of dive into the old comic books that the original Shang Chi comics, and I've not done that. I don't know if you did that at all, John Mark. But
I have not done that.
Okay, well they did that and just went out of their way to address Asian stereotypes in the film before they wrote it, and so I read that before going into the film, so I had my eyes on the lookout for that stuff and ears. So I was wondering, Debbie, if you picked up on anything specific.
That's a difficult one. I mean, I appreciated the research that they did to understand the Chinese culture, even to like today I told you to take your shoes off when he entered my house.
Yeah.
Did you see Shang Chi before he enters Katie's house? He takes.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, he takes the little things like that, like taking the shoes off. That's such an important thing in my family, right? In the church.
And I was gonna say I do that at my house. I don't know why I didn't immediately take them off here too, but that it's not a cultural thing. We just do it. But
Really?
Debbie, seriously.
Well, I have a lot of friends who, like, at least in Paul's side of the family, they wear their shoes in the house, and he's Caucasian American or is it white American? So, but what other things? I guess one stereotype I can think of. Aquafina, or what's it? Katie.
Yeah, Katie.
And Shang-Chi, they are actually living, making minimum wage probably as driving cars. Valet. Yeah. So, but a lot of people put the Asian minority myth, the model minority, stereotype that we're all successful, hardworking, successful, smart. And Shang-Chi and Katie are smart, but they're struggling. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, what you guys think, but it seems like they've been challenged by their friend, right?
Yeah.
It said, like, I don't understand you guys. You're so educated. Shang-Chi speaks 4 languages. Katie went to Berkeley, has multiple degrees, and you're driving cars, parking cars, Yeah.
Yeah, I have a terrible imagination, so I love just dialogue in anything. So those are some of my favorite parts of the movie, where there was dialogue like that. I'm like, oh man, this is so good. But yeah, those scenes with their friends, and you mentioned that Sean and Katie were struggling. I think they were, but it was interesting because I feel like addressing that stereotype it seemed like it was by choice a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like you said, they're super educated. Like their friends weren't wrong. That was part of the problem, right? They were just like, what are you doing? You're throwing away your education and they didn't do it in a, I don't think, super cheesy way. They weren't like, you guys are Asian. Why are you guys not doing something more successful? But that's also could be assumed in kind of what they're saying. They're like, what are you guys doing? You guys have these degrees from these amazing schools. And that's, I think, for people to understand, that's just not something that is afforded Asian people and Asian Americans. We're just not afforded that opportunity. And I say that growing up in white culture. Yeah. I remember hearing that consistently, and being with the model minority myth, like Debbie, you mentioned, being, I can't think of the word, communicated to me or brought up around me. I'm still am obviously awful at math. I was a decent student. I wasn't the head of my class or anything. I don't do karate. Wasn't, was it the decathlon, stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway, so to me, I appreciated them showing them. It kind of felt like a scene from Crazy Rich Asians, where they just showed multifaceted Asian people and as normal people was a way that I felt like they addressed stereotypes of like, dude, we can do whatever we want. This kind of like, it's America. Like, well, I can do whatever I want. I can work my minimum wage job if I want. I don't need to use my prestigious degree. Yeah.
But the mother, remember Katie's mom, had other dreams for her, right? We didn't send you to, that is so real.
Yeah.
So like the Asian, at least in my extended family. Yeah. But I like the fact that Katie kind of knows who she is, and she's not ashamed that she's in the process of figuring out. I mean, I think she's enjoying life. She loves to, or we could go do karaoke. Right? Like she's chill about life. So I feel like she knows herself better than Shang Chi, throughout the movie.
Yeah, that's interesting because he's obviously the focus and the hero, but she kind of balances him out with identity struggle a little bit as kind of a less prominent character. But yeah, I just love that identity, those lines about identity for sure. Yeah. Let's talk about, Katie Awkwafina's character a little bit. There was one scene where they meet, where they meet his father and they bring up names. And she kind of brings up her, I guess, American name, and kind of gives her a history lesson on the power of names. I don't know. Do you guys remember that scene?
Yes.
Okay. So
the dinner table.
Right. And, even if you don't remember it super specifically, I thought that was an interesting dynamic of him educating her on almost the two cultures that she is confident in navigating. And I was just like, this is so, again, I was like, I love real dialogue. So I was like, this is so rich and so good. And most people probably don't give a crap about what's happening now, but I don't know. I thought that was super, super interesting. Any thoughts about that one?
I like what you're saying. I love that scene too. I don't know if I have any thoughts to add to that. Just in contrast, because a few scenes before that, he was the reason people were flying off of buildings. And then a few scenes later, they were at the dinner. You're talking about when the four of them were there at the dad's dinner table? Yeah. And then a few scenes later, he was sitting at the head of the table and directing the conversation. And I like that contrast. And then also, like you said, he was teaching Katie about her heritage, her culture. That was interesting.
I should have wrote down more specifics with that scene because I thought that scene was very interesting.
He was I remember he was saying that names are really important.
Yeah, and he was essentially shaming her for having Katie American compared to and then and then the kind of the balance between Katie kind of joking Shang-Chi or Sean about his name. Oh, you changed.
I love that.
No wonder your dad found you. You changed your name from Shang-Chi to Sean.
Shang-Chi to Sean.
And you wonder why your father found you, Sean to Sean.
Yeah.
Which it's all, kind of a commentary on our Western Americanized culture of, I think we are very much geared towards viewing names that aren't very Westernized American names as other, right? If you hear,
right.
I teach writing to college students, and one thing we do is resumes and cover letters and stuff. And I have a lot of students that come through and they go by something intentionally that sounds more majority culture sounding name, or go by nickname because they just know, and it's true. People are going to see my name that isn't John or Steve, David, and are going to throw my resume out the window because they can't pronounce it or it looks foreign. So I think it's kind of all a commentary on that element a little bit.
Yeah, and it's a sign of the dominance of the Western culture or the American culture that when people come to this country, they have to change their name to something that everyone else can pronounce well, or something that's common among everyone else to try and fit in so that they can be accepted or hired or benefit from society. So if there's anything that's a sign of there being a dominant culture, I think then changing of names is a good sign of that.
And also like Katie and Shang Chi are different in their backgrounds, right? Katie's much more, I think, rooted in the American culture.
Yeah.
I think Shang Chi was kind of hiding a lot of his heritage for 10 years, hiding out, and he realizes he can't run away from it. There's also this family responsibility and responsibility to the world, I guess, as a superhero, to embrace some of his heritage and do the responsible thing. He's been gifted with skill and talent and whatever superpower, and he needs to embrace that part where I think he was running away from the bad parts of that culture. And I think that there are good and bad parts of every culture. And fortunately, at the end, he realizes that he could take the good part.
Yeah. I love that it was the cultural, because I think most of the superheroes do this to an extent. They just want to live a normal life. But I like that Shang-Chi is driven more to, he wants to live a normal life because of his culture and family and stuff background. And it felt different. Like he's a superhero. He's got superpowers, or he's at least got, the ability to, destroy anybody that crosses him. But he's hiding that and to feel normal. And so that obviously is extremely multifaceted as well. There's a lot of layers to it. Yeah, I mean, we keep coming back to the scene just when you see, whoa, all right. Because I mean, I knew nothing coming into it, and then when he just unleashes
on the bus,
the bus, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, as a Marvel fan, switching over to that side, I loved how they developed that, because a lot of times in Marvel, it's like normal person, I'm a normal dude, and then boom, I have superpowers. Like, where do they come from? But in this one, we didn't see how it developed over time right away. We saw him with the powers, and then got the story. So I just loved how that was ordered.
It was there the whole time.
From a movie standpoint. Yep. Yeah, he didn't have to gain them. He already had them.
So good. All right, towards the end, a lot happens at the end, and the last scene, there's dragons, people fighting, fight between Shang-Chi and his dad.
Soul-sucking monsters.
Yes, his sister comes back in, and oh my gosh, so much is happening. How do you guys think it left off? Maybe not left off, because not just the very last scene, but how do you think the overall conclusion of the movie shaped up along the lines of what we're kind of discussing?
Yeah. It was fun to see that. I mean, those fight scenes I thought were amazing.
Yeah.
The land that they went to, where his mom was from, was beautiful, and whatever realm that was in. Yeah. They were like Pokemon. Like the animals were like firebirds and stuff.
Yeah.
They were like Pokemon. I was like, wait a second, is that a Pokemon? So it was amazing. The cinematography, the art in there. I feel like I liked how it ended. Defeating the bad guys and saving the world in all reality. But still, Zhai Ling, like her character, still. She was still left to the side, equally a daughter of her parents as her brother, equally strong, if not stronger, right? She beat him in the fight. Yeah. And Sean or Shang-Chi, I still feel like he went to save her. That was his motivation for going back to China. But I don't know. I feel like he still left her alone. Yeah. And so I think I like how it ended. Right, that it wasn't all perfect. There's still stuff to work through between him and his sister. So
that's
I
great.
liked it, but I feel like it was left open.
Yeah, still a lot to unpack. And as we mentioned, the end scene, which it looks clearly like they're going to develop her a little bit more. But yeah, absolutely. I can't remember if it was Debbie or if it was you, John Mark, who mentioned, why not? There's 10 rings, right? Why didn't 5 go to her?
Give her 5. Yeah.
That's a great point. So I beelined for Target and got some toys as an excuse to get some toys for the kids, not a special occasion. Other than this, I was I want them to have the Shang-Chi toys. toys, and one of them is a little thing that you wear in your wrist, like the rings, and it shoots little foam rings. But you can only buy one for one arm, so it only has 5 really. So that made me think of that. I'm like, yeah, why why not? They're even not selling them together. So yeah, that great point. What about her?
Well, the last scene at the credit ended with the credits. I noticed that when Xialing is told by, what's the big dude, the tall?
Oh, yeah. Wong? Is that his name? Oh, no.
Xialing?
What's his name?
I don't know. The sidekick? You're talking about
the guy who fights Shang Chi in the bus, but now he's helping.
Yeah. Like
with the machete?
The sword arm.
The sword arm, right.
I don't know his name.
I don't know his name. Yeah.
I don't know. He beckons, well, he tells her to come, and they're about to start the martial arts training. So she's sitting on this big chair overseeing the school, and there's a change. 50% of the students are female. Yes. And the other 50, it's 50% male, 50%. So she's definitely changing the culture of this school. But I have the same question. Is she going to be a villain or trying to figure out who she is? Or is she going to be good?
I think she still has to work that out. And that's what I hope they show us, is her working it out. Because she is a product of both her father, the power, and her mother, who's kind of love and peace and wisdom. And so I think she has to work that out too. I think Shang-Chi, his relationship with Katie, his friendship, right? Because it didn't seem like there was much romance, if any, with Katie. But I think the fact that he has Katie keeps him grounded in love, right? He has somebody who loves him. Xialing, I don't think, has anybody yet, except for her brother who loves her, but he's not there. So, so I think that
he
theme
left
of
her,
love,
really.
Yeah, he did twice. But once, and then at the end he wasn't with her. So I think that theme of love, hopefully it'll play out in her life too, and we'll get to see that. But.
Because if you think about it, she lost her mom at a very young age. That's really tough for a daughter, right?
Yes.
And the father didn't take her seriously. He poured all his energy toward into the son, and not her. So there's got to be issues that she needs to work through.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm trying to look up a picture. I don't know if I'll find one right here on the fly. Yeah, go ahead.
Again, for Marvel fans, though, you mentioned the women that were fighting in her new training camp. Yeah. So all of the Black Widows from the Black Widow movie, that's them. So Black Widow was about women overcoming control from an oppressive man. It was a great movie. I loved it. But they escaped him. They were all in this training camp, and he was mind controlling them. And so now they're free and they're fighting under Xialing. So I'm excited to see where that goes too. So from a Marvel perspective, that's exciting too. So.
Well, thanks. I learned something. I didn't know that.
I
actually started to watch Black Widow. I haven't finished yet.
Yeah.
So that's cool to know.
I like that movie too. I recommend it.
We have a long way we have much farther than me and my wife to go then.
Well, you also don't have to, Debbie. You can skip to that one too. You don't have to watch that in order. Yep. You can skip straight to it. Yeah. Because it's her backstory. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. I was trying to find a picture, but I can't find a good one. But I'd have to see it again. But I don't know if this is true. But one of my friends brought up that she noticed that at the end, the 2 dragons, that the Soul Sucker one, she thought looked more maybe like an Americanized, Westernized version of like a dragon, what we would
with wings, wide wings,
and which is much different. And so I thought that was I'd have to go back and look. I was trying to find a good picture, so I thought that was interesting and makes a lot of sense.
It does. That does make a lot of sense.
But that's what that would represent. So, man, I got to go see it again.
Yeah,
Debbie, we got to go a third time.
We can. I could see it again. I think
I'll drive over too. It's only a couple hours.
Yeah, come on up.
Well, the dragon has some significance too, I think, and I'm not an expert at it, but I know dragon is important in our culture. Longevity, right? Everybody wants to hold on to the dragon. There's just only good things happen with the dragon. But I think the dragon is also a part of, like, wasn't there a Merlin series and the dragon was in it? There's a Merlin TV series or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably. I didn't watch that series. I've heard a lot about it. Do you know much like culturally? I think in theory, I know that dragons are very important culturally, but did you pick up on any more specifics throughout the movie?
I don't know if it's right, but for some reason I always think of the dragon as long life and power, but I don't know why I feel that.
Yeah.
It's just from maybe going to Chinese festivals, and I probably didn't pay attention enough because I'm living in America, but it wasn't surprising, or it seemed comfortable that Shang Chi is working with the great protector who is a dragon, type character. And then, of course, the way they communicate, well, I guess the message that he got, a postcard, was from his dad about the dragon, too.
Yeah.
I think the reference, I don't know, it's just very important to that family and but to the Chinese culture, too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And side note, Aquafina was in Raya and the Last Dragon or Lost Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Last Dragon, I think.
And so it's just interesting. Like both of these movies together. Speaking, cultural lesson for anybody who's not from that culture, and I just think it was neat to see both of them came out, I think, within a year of each other.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love seeing Raya too. So I recommend anyone who enjoys Shang-Chi also see that one. So
after we saw it, me and my wife saw it together. She said it was so hard not to hear Sisu, the dragon from Raya.
Yes.
When Aquafina
because she was
talking.
the dragon.
Yeah.
Aquafina was the dragon. So I was having the same thoughts, especially when the dragon came out. I was like, I feel like I've seen this movie before.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job with the end, and oh man, after we're done here, I gotta look up the end scene again to see what my friend's talking about more with the two dragons. But when when he gets the rings, right? Anything stick out to you guys about that scene when he kind of tames the rings?
You mean Shang-Chi?
Yeah. When he gets them, right?
He takes it and puts it into one ball,
Yeah.
golden ball.
Yeah.
I just like the fact that he could have killed his dad.
Yep.
And instead he drops it to the ground in front of him,
Threw him at
saying,
his feet.
I could do this, but I'm not. He shows
Yes.
mercy.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's trying to model what he wants his dad to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Went full circle with, he received the training from his aunt, and then it goes full circle to the first scene we mentioned right in the beginning with his mom teaching his dad that way of fighting. And here it is again. It's like it's that transformative love, I think, that John Mark was mentioning, just following throughout the movie, the whole family, but more specifically even the dad. And it ebb and flows to it being a bright spot in his life to being his downfall over and over again. And it's beautiful how I think that power in the rings, in something like a dragon, in the martial arts, all of that is super, super powerful, strong stuff, is all kind of usurped by love.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is not how, many of the other movies, not just Marvel movies, but movies in general in our culture end.
Yeah. It's that theme of sacrificial love. Love conquers all. And they both the father and son missed their mother and wife, right? the father thought that he was hearing her voice, and it was driving him to use his power in all these violent ways and manipulate his children and control everybody around him. And Shang-Chi learned about his mother from his aunt, her sister. And then at the end, he chose to go the way of his mother rather than fight power with power. He threw the rings down and fought it with love. And my wife we were talking about the movie right after, and she was like, if the rings were manipulating the dad, why would he put the rings on? Like, he knew they were manipulating the dad. Why would he put them on? And it's because he was connected to his mother, right? And it was the love that protected him from the manipulation of the soul eater, I think, was the bad guy. So So the question then is, who really was connected to the love of his mother? And it was him. He was actually listening to her, and the father was being manipulated by his own greed for power and control.
So I like how Shang-Chi, that whole quote we talked about earlier is like, you are your mother, whether you like it or not. You're also your father. Stop hiding who you are. There's another quote from the ant, the light and the dark. To know yourself, you must look into them both. And I feel like it's scary because he was trying to run away from his dad, who was very powerful, but his power is wrapped up into this darkness. Shang-Chi at the end, he learns the power and the skill, but he takes it out of the darkness somehow and uses it for good,
Yeah, I mean, again, that scene is so powerful where his aunt teaches him how to fight, and what is it? He has the closed fist, right? And then she opens, just the visual of open-handed, because he's, he's the best fighter in the world, right? No one can touch him, but
except for his sister.
Yeah.
His sister is a better fighter.
She whooped him. And then, but she's, just literally was like, open your hands. And I think that's right when she's like, your mother always knew who she was. Do you? And it's rhetorical. Obviously, he's like, well, no. Because he's spent all that time suppressing who he is, and it's just, again, so many layers to it. And I love even how she asked the question, because her compared to, she's much more like her sister, their mom, and her compared to his dad doesn't shame him for not knowing who he is. It's just essentially showing him the way of the freedom of like, look, I know who you are. I know who your mom was. I know who I am. It's okay that it's okay you don't know who you are, but that's the only way you're also going to move forward. It's a freeing type of way to say, hey, you're struggling with your identity. And I think that's such a helpful way to communicate about things we're even talking about now, whether even aside from the film. I think that's kind of a lost way of communicating currently with all the things we find ourselves unpacking lately. I thought that was beautiful how she addressed him. One more thing before we wrap up and let you guys go. I liked right up to the end, like right before the credits even, that they just kind of return to who they still are. Like, you think all this has happened. I mean, it has, but then they're right back in front of their friends being like, we're still us. We're still, and then they're still going to karaoke.
Yeah,
right?
I love that scene.
They're still defending
with Wong.
Wong,
and their friend didn't believe him, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Didn't believe him that they'd done this fantastic thing until Wong came and got them. So
and they're so confident. Right, they're not like, this is weird. They're just like, all right, well, here we go. Because it's so real to them, and they're again so strong and confident in what they've been going through and what they represent. And I just love that they return to where we left them before everything happened. They're still themselves.
They're still themselves.
And they're still in control of themselves. Like, because if that doesn't happen, they go back or either they don't go back, or their friends end up being kind of right in a weird way, I guess. Because, they've become superheroes or something. And in a weird way, they would have ended up kind of being right. So I like that they're kind of just like, well, we're still doing our thing with, I guess you don't see them that way, but they're not like off trying to use their degrees, or they're like, yeah, we're still us.
Yeah. And their newfound power isn't getting it to their head. I mean, they're awed at what they were able to accomplish, but it hasn't gotten to their head.
They're still, I mean, they end with being trained and opened up to, the superhero universe, and they're like, what are we getting into? I think it's a great way to show that they're, open-handed as you see them learning throughout the film right up to the end. So, guys, this has been awesome. Do you guys have any closing thoughts we didn't hit on? We hit on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we should do it again for another movie.
Yeah. I will say this. I enjoy talking about culture, race, ethnicity, racism, racial justice. It's refreshing to speak about something that's fun, approach it from like a very positive thing, because it's so hard everywhere else. But this movie was just fun, it was great to watch. It was fun to see a different culture. For me, different culture, different, just themes, and it was a blast. I loved it. So
yeah, I agree. Watching like Black Panther and Shang Chi, it's a way to explore ethnicity, culture, and it's a refreshing way.
It is.
Whereas so much of our conversation is so intense and draining, and sometimes I really need to step back and just take a break. Yeah. Even though I know it will always be important to me because of we as people of color, especially. Yes. Yeah. But this is just a much more enjoyable, refreshing, and delightful way to get into
it. Yeah. That's well said. Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that, John Mark and Debbie. I could not agree more. I think now, like right now, culture, it's really easy to look at the way we're leaning, not just us, but our, woke culture. I know that's a buzzword, but right now we're kind of characterized as swinging, to an extreme in a lot of people's eyes of like, everyone's just obsessed with diversity statements and representation and all these just words that are being turned into this and that and whatnot. But I don't want to leave off without saying that, those of you, to our listeners, representation is a huge deal. And hopefully many people listening understand, especially if you've been listening to this for a while. But that was one of the first episodes, I did with my friend Zach, and that it's really, really, really important. This is a huge example of that. Yeah. It's not just a product of woke culture that seeing this movie was an emotional experience, I think, for Asian people of color. It was therapeutic. There's nothing like being seen where you haven't felt seen or identified with. And it is a big deal. We're not making it over dramatic or just picking something to point out for fun and be like, oh yeah, see, like, and get on the soapbox and talk about it. It's like, no, this is real. Like we said at the beginning, kind of off the cuff, first Asian lead in one of these superhero movies. Like it does not happen. And I grew up with nothing like it. Many people didn't grow up with anything like that. Yeah. Debbie, you shared that as well. Before, Black Panther, you talked about, John Mark, how impactful and powerful that was. Yeah, that's real. And I didn't want to end this without reiterating how important that is. Like, don't get, to our listeners, like, don't get tired of hearing your friends of color express that sentiment, because it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And Simu Liu, he's great. I think he speaks into this really well and very responsibly. I really actually admire him just as a person. He's great at acting, but it's more being successful. making it to the Marvel Studios is not his biggest picture. I mean, I really appreciate the fact that he's trying to make a difference and be an advocate or be a voice for the Asian community, to be about representation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen a couple interviews with him, and he's a great interview. It's super entertaining, but is a great spokesperson for the culture. John Mark, you look like you're about to say something.
No, what you are saying, great. Mine is more of an aside. Have you ever heard of the show Kim's Convenience?
Oh yes, I love it.
Yes.
Another.
It's where
someone else told me about it recently. I've been meaning to watch it. I haven't yet.
It's on Netflix. It's where he started.
I haven't watched it.
You got to watch it. My wife and I love it, and it's wrapping up, so you'll be able to stream all. It's wrapping up, I think, in part because of Simu Liu, his role with this. He was the son on the show, and it's about a Korean family. And so the line where he says, where they called him Gangnam Style, and he said, "I'm not even Korean." I feel like that was a nod to his role.
Oh, for sure. That's
Kim's
awesome.
Convenience. So just, hearing you talk about him, the actor, and what he's doing with his role and his life outside of it, I love hearing that. And I'm when I saw that he was selected for it, I was so excited for him. To get this role. I was excited for him as a person to get this role. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, thank you again so much for doing this. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. This was so much fun, like John Mark said. A little change of pace here doing this. We'll have to do it again. Debbie, you'll have to do like a spin-off podcast on movies since you brought that up.
We will have to do that. We can. The three of us could talk movies.
Yeah, we
can do that. I'd love that.
Plenty of time to do another whole other podcast, right?
Yeah.
All right, you guys, thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.